everybody, what is going on? I am Maximus Rex, once again joined by my good buddy Mark Darden, and this is Big Baby Reviews. Mark, how you doing today?
Doing all right. Doing okay.
Awesome. So we're going to be basically finishing up our whole kind of chapter, unit, whatever you want to call it, on the image founding fathers. Now, technically, Wills, unfortunately, wasn't really part of that first wave, kind of more part of the second wave, but we're kind of looking at it as if, you know, he had released the stuff in and around the same time as the image founding fathers, kind of comparing and contrasting with what they did. And once we're done with WETWORKS and Wills, we'll be moving on to the second wave of image creators with our next videos. So for today, we are taking one last look at, once again, Wills, PORTACIO, WETWORKS, and more specifically, WETWORKS issue number 3.
Yeah, good one. It's a good looking cover.
Yeah, he kind of did kind of pulled a McFarlane here and got someone to paint over his artwork. It's credited to Ben Fernandez, who I'm not familiar with, but looks pretty cool. I think the synergy of, you know, Will's art style and the painted style here works pretty well. I would say I probably prefer this to the Spawn covers, issue 1 and 2, that Todd had Ken Stacy paint over. I really do like Ken Stacy's art on its own. Not that him painting over Todd is horrible in any way. It still looks pretty cool, but just feel like the two styles here with the WETWORKS cover kind of mesh a bit better than those Spawn covers. So good on Wills.
Yeah, and it's definitely a much more striking cover than the last one.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. I do remember seeing it as a kid and being like, oh, you know, it's going to pull my eyes off the shelf. That white space works really well. And the fact that it's white space, it's surrounded, so it's kind of white in the middle. It really does create an effect, like it as if it's an effect cover without actually being an effect cover.
Yeah, the kind of glowy light effect that's coming off of it works really well. And it's a little bit surprising because obviously up to this point, you know, with all the advertising over the years before WETWORKS comes out and with the first 2 issues, obviously the color we associate with WETWORKS is gold or a mix of yellows that look like gold. And all of a sudden, boom, we got this character who's kind of glowing blue. So I remember, you know, getting this issue and going, hey, you know, what's going on here? So definitely establishing a little bit of mystery, getting us and enticing us into buying the issue and finding out what's going on. Not that we're going to get that many answers, but you know, at least it gets you to pick up the book.
We never got that Scrooge McDuck crossover we deserved. Them golden after these golden warriors.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. He wants to throw them in his safe and swim in them.
Yeah. Keep him in his poolside safe.
Yeah, Scrooge swimming through his gold coins was always funny to me because even as a kid, I was like, wouldn't he just like smash into it and like break every bone in his body? Yeah.
Cartoon, can't take it seriously.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's the fun of cartoons.
Yep. But I do like good striking cover. They do minimize the logo, which makes sense. I do feel like they could have still done it bigger.
Yeah, there's a lot of space up there for sure.
Yeah, it could have gone behind that white streak coming across, but you'd still see it because that white streak is faded. So it could have popped and been bigger, and it might have been the right choice to outline it, but also they could have put a color in and it wouldn't have detracted too much. The rest of it, the image logo, I get putting that down in the corner, although there's also kind of space for it up top too, but I get it being down at the bottom and not as distracting, but the logo I feel like should definitely be bigger.
Yes. Everyone watching out there, always make sure when producing comics that your logo is big and legible, not hard to find.
Yeah.
All right. That's about it for me for the cover. Not much else to say.
Yeah. They're still doing the dang, on this dang paper texture.
Yeah.
It's not great for reading. So I don't know why they got so into it. Definitely do.
To me, it really kind of dates it as well. It's a really dated kind of effect from Photoshop that I don't think anyone uses anymore. So it really does kind of pinpoint stuff to the 90s when you're using that kind of texture.
Yeah, no, don't love it. Then they mostly maintain the same team. They changed letterers, but there's in smaller print, there is a color assistant, and then there's several ink assists. So Scott Williams got a lot of help. JD, Richard Johnson, and John Thigh. So that's kind of interesting. Try and pick out pages where it's funny there are these different inkers, because when I look at page 1, just the faces on the screens, some of them felt like I was like, oh, is this Mark Silvestri? Wait, no, it's not. So I don't know. I'm probably not the best at picking out like every spot where it's not Scott Williams, but those faces stood out to me.
Yeah, no, I see what you're saying. There's also like less, just generally less detail, I guess, maybe on these faces. That's why it looks a little bit different from the rest of the stuff. I gotta say, as opposed to other books I've seen where you've got inking assists, the inking was pretty consistent throughout this issue. Where, like you said, usually I'm pretty good at picking out areas where I'm like, oh, I feel like this is a different inker and stuff. You don't really see that. So, I mean, kudos to them for, again, being very consistent with the style.
Yeah.
And the different inkers not standing out too much.
Yeah, because with a lot of comics, when you've got multiple inkers, it might be that like this guy did pages 11 through 16 or something. So you get this tonal shift in how the art looks if they're not an inker with a really similar style. My guess would be maybe the ink assist did backgrounds where it wasn't going to stand out as much, and Scott Williams stuck to the figures, and that would make a lot of sense and a good way to divide the work.
And if these are guys who are working already within Homage Studios and within that crew, they're definitely trying to emulate the same kind of ink strokes and ink lines that Scott Williams is laying down. He's kind of the guru when it comes to inking at Homage Studios for sure. One little thing that I thought was funny is assistant editor Sarah Becker. Fine, but there's no actual editor, is there?
Oh,
so to be credited with assistant editor, if there's no editor, shouldn't she just be editor?
Yeah, that would be how that would work. Oh well.
But enough about the credits page.
Yeah.
Not what we're here for.
About that all importance credits page. Yeah. But I do appreciate credits page, because I hate when I go through comics and like, okay, where did they put the credits? And I'm going through pages and then like, oh, on page 3 they give the credits, or maybe it's page 5. Usually it's a double page spread or some kind of significant page. But
I agree with that. Whenever the credits, I mean, before Image, we were used to credits usually being on the first page, right? Generally, or like you said, revealed on the pages 2 and 3 with a double page splash or something, or a spread. It always annoyed me when the credits were on the last page, right, of the comic. I never really understood how that made any sense. Maybe they're trying to emulate like TV and movies or something, but even then, TV and movies, you get credits at the beginning and at the end. So, I'll always give it up to Image. I feel like they were really the first to, obviously with their mindset and creator rights, owning the characters and stuff, credit was very important to them. And it was always kind of front and center on that first interior page, and you didn't have to look for it. Big and bold. Very proud of who's producing their books. So kudos to them for that, for sure.
Yeah. Oh, also I noticed there's one other small change, and that's that Willis and Brandon were co-plotters in the first 2 issues, but this one, Brandon's only dialogue. So maybe just didn't need as much help, or maybe he was too busy.
Or because I mean, Brandon's a busy boy. I think he's dialoguing like all of the Homage Studios books, pretty much.
Yeah, I think a lot of times he was working Wildcats, although he shifted off of that one. Other people shifted into place, but then there was like Stormwatch, and then he was helping with Gen 13. And I think he stuck on Gen 13 and Stormwatch, and then helping out with WETWORKS. Although he shifts off of this one too. It's the first 3 issues he helps with, and then it's a different guy going forward.
Probably doing the early Deathblow stuff as well.
Yeah. Probably had to really jump in on that Fire in Heaven great crossover that they were going to get. And
is that the Barry Windsor Smith one?
I think so. Yeah, that's the one where he does a couple covers, and he does draw the first issue of it, which looks really cool. And they probably, they should have wrote a better story. But from what this is a tangent, but from what I understand, when he got the script, he didn't totally follow it. He made like adjustments to it to make it better without them really knowing, and so then kind of created a bit of an issue.
Bit of a kerfuffle there, and I would,
Yeah.
probably trust Barry Windsor Smith to, yeah, definitely improve the story rather than make it worse.
Yeah.
But yeah, it might have caused some issues for the other guys who were expecting something else for sure.
So, so onto this page one that we were starting to talk to. The first establishing shot is weird because it's a overhead shot, which I like the idea of because that's different, but because it's covered over by panel two, if it was a full overhead shot sticking out by itself or only just a teeny piece of it covered over, but really I'd prefer an isolated panel. That would be cool because nobody else is doing it. That'd be awesome. And then, maybe shrink down this other panel, which I think you could do very effectively of having, if you just move those figures up so that they're kind of crossing over those computers, those lower computer screens a little bit, you really could shrink down the size of this panel and still have all the information in it.
Yeah, the importance of that panel kind of gets lost because it's overlapping panels is a pretty common thing at this point with the image kind of style layout and whatever, but you're covering up so much of it that you're covering up kind of important information. To be honest, until you mentioned it, I was thinking I wasn't even quite sure exactly what that panel was. Like, are we looking inside a computer tower or those transistors or something? Like, that's kind of the vibe I got from it real quick. I didn't even know that was an overhead view.
Yeah. No, yeah, now that you mentioned the inside of a computer, I'm like, I'm pretty sure those are buildings, but yeah, it could totally just be like a circuit board or something.
Yeah, is this a Tron comic? Like, what is that?
Yeah. It does say Washington, D.C., so that was something I was looking up because like Spawn's in New York, Shadowhawk is in New York, the Wildcats were in New York,
Pretty sure.
Cyberforce is in Manhattan, which is
New York.
New York.
Yeah.
So it's like Youngblood's sort of in, at least the home team is Washington, D.C. based, though doesn't really play into it much. And then Savage Dragon's in Chicago. So he got the heck out of there. Somebody went elsewhere. But then they're saying,
I feel like Larson, that was probably a conscious decision where he's like, man, all these other books are happening in New York. Let's try something a little bit different here. And the West Coast guys, the Homage guys and Liefeld and stuff, they're in LA. Why not base some of that stuff in LA, right? It just seems odd to me.
Yeah, a Youngblood would make a lot of sense to be LA based if they're
celebrities and yeah, absolutely.
Make a lot of sense. But this one's starting off in Washington, D.C., so it puts it in the Youngblood area. But I was thinking we thought it was in New York because of the concert or something. But yeah, maybe it's Washington, D.C. Yeah.
I was just going to say, this is probably the most distinct kind of faces of the WETWORKS characters we've gotten up to this point to help differentiate them. You know what I mean? They're not in the symbiotes, obviously, but like I can tell the difference between the male characters, right? We have the guy that we already know who's easy to identify, I guess, because of his longer hair. But the other two guys, one guy's kind of a scruffy beard, and the other guy's got the Pedro Pascal look with the mustache there. So a little bit of differentiation there between characters that are actually quite similar.
Yeah, because of all the bandanas and goggles in the few pages that we saw them before the symbiotes hit, which I think hits in like page 9. So yeah, we never had a really good look at a lot of the characters, and this kind of profile pic would have been also good to have in issue 1. Maybe have civilian ID photo, and then next to their like tactical photo to help us connect to the characters a little better.
Well, yeah, we were talking about that before we started shooting, where it's like, I definitely feel WETWORKS is the one book. The team has 9 members, so it would definitely help to have that kind of thing maybe on below the credits on the credits page or something, reminding us of the characters and their names. We had mentioned also in issue 1, it gets confusing because sometimes they refer to each other by their real names and sometimes by their code names. So at that point, you're having to integrate like 18 different names for characters. It's by issue 3 here, I know I can kind of recognize to a certain extent. I still get them confused. Mother 1, Dane, and I think I feel like they've been calling him Mendoza, but then maybe I'm wrong. The guy with the long hair and the full face mask. Those are kind of
Yeah.
the three characters I recognize. The other
I think
guys
that
are
might
pretty generic.
I think that might be Grail, but I don't know. Yeah, so it's really only those two names that stick out. They really should have stuck strictly to the code names from the get-go, so that we just know them by that. We can learn their identities later down the line because there's so many other details to learn. But also, if they had done that little chart of the characters, like just the little headshots with the names by it in issue 1, then it makes for the fun effect when you get to issue 4 and you can put X's over a couple of them because, spoiler alert, anytime you have a 9-person team, probably not all of them are surviving. A couple of those guys are more red shirt than they know.
Absolutely.
This page, story-wise, is actually pretty neat because it's that war room and they're talking to the president, and the president, his understanding is that the WETWORKS team got in, got the symbiotes, and then ran off with them, and that they have betrayed the government. And of course, the war room team isn't going, well, actually, we kind of sent in gunships to shoot them to death, so they had a pretty good reason to run off. It's kind of our fault. Now, of course, they don't bother to mention those details, so the president understands they're agents who have gone rogue and they need to be recaptured. And the war room is given permission to bring back in this other leader that used to be in charge, who they actually had sent to a major prison, like into like a high level security prison. They threw him in there because he was so like so dangerous. But they're like, oh, we're gonna bring that dangerous dog back out now that we need somebody to go after the WETWORKS crew.
Yeah, and I laughed when I read that because his name is Raymond Lagauche. I guess that would, that's how an American would say it. As you know, I'm of French origin. That's a very French name. It's actually Raymond Lagauche, right? And what's funny is Lagauche literally translated means the left. Okay, and and in French, the word left is associated with being clumsy. Like someone who's clumsy, you'll say ils sont gauche, right? So I'm like, again, an English speaker wouldn't pick up on this, but as a French speaker, I was like, man, they're pulling out this guy called the Clumsy. So I'm not quite sure he's going to be quite that as effective as they expect him to be in this whatever operation they're trying to involve him in.
Maybe the problem is he was clumsy with the details. Like that's why he's the butcher, because he's not. he's clumsy with like what the mission objective is, maybe not with the actual effectiveness of taking out who you want him to take out. But he took out other people too because he's the clumsy guy. He got the guy you wanted, but a lot of collateral.
Oops.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which guy?
Shoot them all.
Yeah, I got the guy you wanted me to get. What about the other night?
Doubt. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's all I got about that page.
That's pretty much it. I'm still going to give tons of kudos to Wills, as opposed to a lot of the other image artists, really pouring it on when it comes to the backgrounds. Another excellent page of like computer screens and technology and stuff. Looks really cool. Looks like you put the time in. Good job.
Yeah, good point, because we got, Jim Valentino, the guy who's almost never shrinking on the details, and Eric Larson does a great job of giving us the backgrounds, and Jim Lee did a great job through almost all of it, and Willis Portacio's doing a really good job. Mark Silvestri sometimes, but there were some spots where like they were in a tunnel, and that's about all we know.
Dark tunnel. Yeah.
Yeah. Todd did pretty good with all the backgrounds. Rob really is the offender.
The worst offender when it comes to backgrounds, especially modern day Rob Liefeld. Todd's kind of a master of what I would call the deadline establishing shot. So he's always good at giving us an establishing shot of where things are happening. It's usually a vertical panel with a lot of stuff cropped out, but you see buildings and stuff, where it's happening. And then once he's established, the backgrounds tend to be a little bit more minimal, but I'm okay with that because at least he's established the setting, and then he just starts noodling on the debris that he's such a fan of.
All right.
All right, next page.
Yeah. So things start happening quickly. The only thing I was going to say is that first page is not a real it's not a real if this were your first issue, it's not a great opening page. Like if I was a kid and I opened that, like dudes in a room talking, not a great opening page. But it does get into things pretty quickly. It's another one where a slight reorder might have helped, because you remember like issue 1 where they could have like jumped right in from the get-go and then had the flashbacks to the lead up. It could have worked a lot more effectively. But after they get good story details, but a boring looking scene out the way, then it's like the truck arrives. They've got the biological agent that they're going to release at this concert, so they're loading it in, and they're talking about how they have a twofold mission of, let's stick it to the humans and wipe a bunch of them out with this, but also we're here to get the Blood Queen's brother, who has tainted blood, they mentioned, so he must not be a full vampire.
Yeah, and they also mentioned he's a stepbrother, right? So he's only half, I guess,
yeah,
part of that clan or whatever.
yeah. How do you be a half vampire brother? Because it would be of her bloodline. Like she would have had to bite the person that, right?
I don't know, man. Like it's one of the it's one of those convoluted aspects of WETWORKS here. Oops, sorry.
Yeah, it's not like the vampires breed, so it's like, or there was the elder vampire who bit her and then also bit him. So they're either of the same bloodline or they're not, unless he bit several people and then one of them bit her and then a lesser strand bit him. I guess that's how you get tainted.
Like when you bite someone and they become a vampire, do they automatically become part of your bloodline or the family?
Yeah.
Like is there some sort of link that's created there? I don't know. It's in vampire lore. I'm not quite sure.
Blood Queen must have gotten bit by like the greatest vampire, and then somebody that he bit this dude. So it's not quite as good. That's the best I can figure.
Yeah, well, we're not going to figure out vampire lore today. So
Yeah.
my question is, do you think is this a plot point? Do they mention it that the bio weapon here is kind of disguised to look like a huge multicolored beach ball?
Yeah, that's a good one for the concert, because people are just going to see a big prop coming in and think, oh, yeah, that belongs here.
It's just that big ball. The crowd's going to be bouncing around while the show's going on, right?
Yeah. No, it's just, I mean, it probably is too heavy to, well, I guess it depends on what it's filled with. Yeah. If it's filled with an airborne agent, then yeah, it could be pretty light. Um, but they're using that color thing again that they did in the first issue, where they've got the blue and then the red coming in, and it made more sense in that one, or at least I felt like it did. It makes less sense here, but it's still a cool effect. I still enjoy it.
Like it looks, yeah, it's aesthetically pleasing for sure. I feel like they're going for like a slight kind of gothic vampire rock vibe with the color scheme, right? You're throwing the red in there, keeps kind of the vampire vibe. So yeah, I think it works pretty well. I'd like, again, when we're talking about backgrounds, that shot at the bottom of the second page here of just the stage from far away and the crowd and the lights and stuff. Often we focus on figures and stuff, but I think that's just a really good, masterful drawing, a small little drawing that establishes excuse me, where the concert is happening, and a great little illustration.
Yeah, you've got the stage with the performers, and then there's hints of like just kind of little blotches that are people. That's obviously a full crowd that's moving forward and filling in and off to the side. So yeah, it is quite the good establishing shot. I wonder if they took an actual concert photo.
It almost feels like it might be a bit photo referenced. Yeah,
but
which I'm cool with.
It works. I wouldn't complain about this type of photo reference. That's a good use of it. And then the photo next to it, the drawing next to it that has the close up with the stanchions and the lighting, and then the people singing. It's pretty effective. I like it. It's a nice piece.
Yeah, the whole background is really effective. Really looks like a concert setting. The lighting rigs and all that stuff feels pretty authentic. We've said it before, Wills doesn't shy away from doing a lot of detailed backgrounds and creating a nice setting. I'll always think that the guitar player on the right there he just looks a lot like Paul Stanley from Kiss. So I just like to think that when he's not on tour with Kiss, Paul Stanley is playing with the vampires.
He wishes he was playing with vampires.
Maybe he's trying to get bit, for eternal life. Yeah.
That'd be very believable. And like,
Yeah.
oh, they'll show Gene. I'll
Yeah.
rock on forever while he gets old.
I'll
Show,
actually be spitting real blood.
yeah, I'll show him who was the best Kiss member. Uh, we don't need to get into Kiss lore, that stuff. Um, and
That's
then
a
that
whole other
bottom,
video.
yeah, that bottom panel I do like, and I like the monochrome red. In fact, it's monochromatic, and that they just are using red with, well, there's a little bit of blue to the eyes, but several shades of red. Very effective in this. It doesn't take away from the details of the inking, but it's nice that it's not black and white. It's a very effective use of color.
Yeah, I like the mood that it sets here for sure.
Yeah.
That vampire singer's got some extremely long forearms.
Oh, yeah. Well, they're very thin and spindly. Well, okay, the one is very thin. The other one is
Yeah.
not as
More.
thin. So that's actually a little off. That one forearm is
Yeah.
quite normal. Like that one forearm looks like a regular dude's forearm, and then the other one looks like a very skinny old person's forearm, like someone who's 90 or 100. So
Yeah.
that's an odd. Yeah.
We know
Hey,
which arm he's using when it's alone time.
oof, maybe one of them got broke at some point, or maybe he had a bad arm when he was alive. But oh well.
I'm going to go with obsessive masturbator. That's what I think.
With the left. Gotcha. We get the cruise-in shot again. And it works that it's the arrival, and they're arriving away from where the concert's going on. So they're not like flying in over it, and then the vampires being like, oh, somebody's coming.
Yeah,
Which
yeah,
would
yeah.
have, that would have been very Batman movie-esque if they had just flown over the concert and dropped in, but they're actually trying to be stealthy, like like they're training. So they
Yeah,
landed.
I mean, with WETWORKS, I definitely feel like it's the one where the military kind of aspect and connection is more obvious maybe than some of the other books that are kind of going for that, like Cyberforce and Wildcats. Other than the symbiotes, they are a military unit, right? And they are working like one in this book. So, again, maybe down to Brandon Choi, like we talked about before in a past video, that he was actually training to become a Navy SEAL. So I feel like, one of the reasons he's, worked into a lot of these books is because of that knowledge. And a lot of the writing kind of tends to reflect that. So that's why we're getting that here.
There is a weird tangent here though, because they fly in to the ground, but then they're in the loading bay. They're at the opening of this. It's sort of a jet, sort of. But then when they come rappelling out, they're up high above the cityscape. So they came in low, but then they actually flew back up, which we don't see. That happens off panel. And then they're rappelling down over the city. So really they are up top above the stadium, and I guess it's a closed stadium. So they're entering through the roof. They're going in through, because there is usually hatches up top, but they're going in that way. So it's like, you flew in low, but then
you pulled back up. Yeah. Off camera. It's a little nonsensical for sure. There's no reason to kind of swoop down over the water other than to get this cool shot. That's the only reason, really.
Yeah, we're getting a bit more standard paneling though, because Willis was really going off on his alternate panel layouts, and like this one, things overlap a bit, but they're square panels. Again, there's a little bit of white space and a little bit of stuff being slightly canted to the side rather than just directly over each other, but it's a lot more restrained in this comic.
Yeah, I would agree. Maybe he's waiting for the action sequence or something, because I do feel like on this page on the right, once the action kind of starts up a little bit, then the paneling starts to be a little more, at an angle, slightly broken border. You get the circular panel at the bottom, which is like the sight of the gun, which is always a nice touch.
Yeah. It is a nice touch, although sequence-wise, it would be cool to get that one first.
Yeah.
You got the guy holding the other guy, and like, I'm going to get you, and then have the circular panel, and then have the shooting panel. It's a little anticlimactic to see the shots and then see the person looking through. I mean, we understand what happened, but still, I feel like it'd be a little more impactful the other way. I do like that top left panel that's sort of an open panel. Like they have a box border for the top part of it, but then it just becomes open into the white space with the figures and then the beach ball of the air toxin that they're going to release.
And still, we're still getting that stupid, weird visor those vampires.
You're going to bring it up.
It just really annoys me.
Yeah.
You know, and it also, to me, like, how's it holding there? It just looks like it would wobble around and not be comfortable and stuff. So I really don't get, other than the look of it, I guess. But
they're special vampire goggles.
yeah, I see no use for them.
Yeah. Again, we get an open, a sort of open panel again, because you've got the box up top, but then her hanging down into white space as the sniper is shooting. That's pretty cool. And then Mother One and Dane are up on a high position, overlooking, kind of being in charge of the mission at first, except then Dane jumps in.
Yeah, I mean, I overall on this page, I find like all the girders and the metal structures in the back there almost act as like a, almost become abstract and more of a design element, which is cool and works pretty well for the backgrounds of these pages. Obviously, considering the setting that they're in, and yeah, that idea that she's hanging down from the metal structure into open space and makes sense to have her overlap that negative space of the white page. Some pretty good design work there.
Yeah, we're getting a little bit higher panel count now that the action's taken off, although higher than a low panel count, because we're getting like 5 panel pages, 4 to 5. But it's an uptick. It's weird that in the last panel of page 6, it almost looks like there's another panel back behind the text. So
Oh yeah.
where Mother One's standing on that stanchion, I feel like that should just be black space back there, because whatever those details are, I don't know what they are, but what they look like is maybe somebody. It looks like a reporter holding a microphone or something, but I can't see enough of it to know
Yeah,
what it is.
I see what you're saying. I feel like it's probably the singer of the band. You know how sometimes when you go to concerts, if you're really far away, they've got the screens so you can
Yeah.
see things a bit closer. But yeah, again, we've talked about this before where, you know, Wills is leaving a lot of negative space on some of these pages,
Yeah.
and the letterer is not taking advantage of it. This would be an instance where, you know, those last 3 kind of text boxes could be moved down even more and, you know, laid out differently with that negative space below Dane to not obscure, not something that I would say is necessarily an important detail, but Will's put the effort in to have that detail in the panel, and we just visually can't read it, or basically have to really kind of go in there and guess at what it is, because unfortunately that text box right on top of it.
Yeah, and they could cut text. I'm reading this panel of, then I guess it's time for me to earn my paycheck and make sure those vampires never get the chance to use it. But you could just go into, I'm going to earn my paycheck and make sure those vampires never use it. Just get to the point a little quicker, and then you could move his next word balloon up into that panel. The I'm going in, Mother One. Keep me updated on the situation. You could just say, I'm going in. Keep me updated, because we know.
Yeah, we've mentioned a lot with WETWORKS how easy it would be to make some of this text more succinct, shorter, and still give you all the information that you need. And this is definitely, again, this page, well drawn and stuff, but it's kind of text and dialogue heavy. And I definitely feel like all of this could be cut down much more to just the essential bits, and you wouldn't really lose, again, information that's important.
Yeah. So if his first balloon from this 4th panel was moved up, it then creates space for, actually, her balloon could also be moved up. Her response, of course, Colonel Dane. And then those thought balloons, which is what those are supposed to be, which is a very weird tangent. If she's speaking in a yellow square box, to then go to a yellow square box as his inner monologue, on sight, you would think that's just her continuing to talk. or her internal monologue.
Yeah.
They needed to do a separate color for her. They're also having a weird tangent where their balloon tails aren't quite connecting to her speech balloons.
Yeah.
So I don't know if they got in a hurry or if there was a little printer error, but that's a small error. But again, if they were able to move, if they cut down his balloons a little bit, moved him up, they could move her text balloon up and then divide out these balloons of his internal monologue being the only thing going on in that fourth panel, but also would allow space to get it off of that screen so that we better see what it is and it's not a lost detail. Anyway, I think not covering the art in lettering is very important. And I also think it's important. It's something I like to do is like once you actually have all the story down and you see what the wording is going to cover up, sometimes it's worth going back and doing another edit to just minimalize the wording a little more so that you can avoid covering up important details.
Yeah, absolutely. I've really started doing this. Maybe not so much when I do my own stuff, just because when you're doing your own stuff, you don't write out a full script and then start drawing it. You kind of, you've got a basic plot line. I kind of draw and add stuff as I'm going. But I'm working on a project for someone right now where it's a full script, and I will lay out the panels and I do lettering before I do the art. And that way, I can pretty much make sure that the lettering is not covering up anything that's important to the visual storytelling in the panel and on that page. And I find that's very effective and makes it so I don't have to go back and edit those kind of details.
Yeah, and then we get back to that red and blue, and the beach ball goes out, but there's already somebody shot on the ground. And you've got the vampire who's about to hit the button, but for whatever reason, he doesn't hit the button,
Yeah,
Instead of like, you totally could do the thing, but you're not doing it. Now, maybe because they're like, well, we dropped it off, but we're still here. So, they're not trying to go down with the ship, I suppose. Then the vampires drop their very poor disguises. They're very werewolfish vampires. They're kind of on the line there.
I'm not a huge fan of the vampire design that he's got. It's all right, and I think if you took the visors off, they would be a lot better. But yeah, there's this. It's kind of generic, I guess, and they all end up kind of looking the same too. So
yeah, they're very bat-like. Like if they were mutant bats, they're kind of their design's a little more man bat from Batman than vampire. Yeah. And the guy behind them with the visor totally looks, that's in the shadows in panel 4, totally looks like a werewolf because of the shadows where I can't see all the details.
Absolutely. Yeah. And this shot of the singer, I just thought I'd take a bit of time and just read out the super deep lyrics that he's singing here.
Yes.
We live among the shadows of the night, just waiting for that early morning. They're waiting for the sun to rise. I don't get it. Like to go hide into the shadows? Do these vampires does the sun affect them like most vampires? I'm not quite sure where he's going with those lyrics.
And too soon comes the early morning. You could say something that goes along with the fact that that's not the thing you're looking forward to. Like we have our precious time is the night, and then alas comes the morning when we gotta retreat to our private shadows, our inner shadows. I don't know. Yeah, inner shadows. Then it would make it like you're lost in your dark thoughts while you wait for the sun to go down. But hey, they weren't lyricists.
No, exactly. Obviously, they're just kind of thinking of it in relationship to the story and the themes and stuff. But to me, like as a a musician who's been in rock bands and stuff, I mean, these are just bottom of the barrel lyrics here. Like, these are 13 and 14-year-old kid lyrics, basically.
Hey, maybe he's not that good a rock star. Like maybe he's been around long enough to finance his career, but maybe he's a Jared Leto.
Yeah. Well, he's definitely pandering to his base of emo goth kids.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. It is creepier and creepier when you think about vampires having relationships with humans. It's like, oh, I mean, come on, you've been alive for hundreds of years. Isn't hanging with a 17-year-old starting to really get weird? I mean, beyond the normal it being weird. Like you've got hundreds of years of experience.
Well, here's the thing: if you're a vampire and you're drinking blood, I'm just assuming here that the blood of young people
It's
probably
better than
tastes better and fresher. You know what I mean?
healthier. Yeah. Yeah, there is that. That's a good point.
You're not trying to bite people with AIDS. I don't think, anyways.
Or just elderly people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. You don't want their disease-filled blood.
That's it.
Yeah. Wait, are you a smoker? Ugh. Okay, never mind. Never mind.
There's a high alcohol content to this blood. I'm getting drunk.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. How does that affect him? And the vampire's like, oh, having a good time after drinking up at that concert, or are they like, oh, I feel horrible. Oh, I swore I'd stop drinking from alcoholics.
Yeah, yeah. They've got blood hangover.
Yeah. Yeah, so the singer gets on the offensive. I love that fourth panel or fifth panel, sixth panel. Oh my gosh, it's the sixth panel of the page.
Yep.
But it plays out really well of having they're almost monochromatic vampires in the foreground because they're kind of grays and blacks. Maybe there's tinges of blue in there with their little red visors. But they well frame the sides of the panel and then centerpiece of the singer who's hitting the one guy, and then just that red, which there's a little bit of a color shift. Like there's a slightly lighter color as you go down, I think, but it's not much, and it works really effectively.
Yeah, you know what? I'm just visually, I'm a little bit confused. It makes sense that that is the singer, but don't you find that the actual figure drawing of him almost looks nothing like what we've established of the singer before? Like, other than him saying it, I just always felt that, like, I wouldn't right off the bat recognize him as the singer. Maybe if he still had the microphone in his hand or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. Some
Oh
small
yeah.
detail that would
Well,
connect his prior look to this. He just looks quite different in that panel.
yeah. No, I hear what you're saying. Yeah, because he has kind of a mullet.
Yeah.
With a little bit of curls in the front. He does have that super skinny forearm. So if that had been consistent, and I completely agree with you, since he's using his left hand to attack anyway, if he still had the microphone in his right, it would really take away. But his haircut here, because of the shadows, we're not
Yeah.
seeing the long locks that are coming down. It really looks like he has a short cropped hairdo. And so that does create a visual disconnect.
And I still feel, even though the details are small, you could give him a bit of that scruffy beard that he's got, like the 5 o'clock shadow that we're not really getting in that illustration.
Yeah, we need to see his long, lovely locks so that he connects. But I think the microphone, that would really
Right?
help
That
a
would
lot.
just be like a clear detail that's the
Mhm.
singer.
Yeah, absolutely. Heck, if he had impaled him with the microphone stand,
That'd be pretty cool. Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
yeah,
Absolutely.
that would have been a good one.
Missed opportunity.
Yeah. Oh, Willis, Joe, if we only we were Monday morning quarterbacking your book for you
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
30 years later. Uh, yeah. Then you've got a vampire. Oh, okay. And that's the brother getting overwhelmed,
Yeah.
and it's kind of weird. So then the Wetworks crew, the guy that he shoots, like again, I'm confused of who's getting shot here.
Yeah, I totally agree. This is where it
Yeah,
starts to get kind of convoluted.
my first assumption would be that's the singer getting shot, uh, but it must not be.
That's
It's
not.
not. But that's because it's not the right outfit. I get the shirt's wrong, but just because of how he's centered and because there hasn't been a good
Hair.
establishment of the previous panel needs to very much show that figure in good detail. Like if that first panel we clearly saw that guy versus the singer, and then saw him got shot in panel 3, it would make a lot more sense. But because panel 1's so low detailed, with the singer looking like he has pants and a shirt on, that's who it looks like got shot. Because it
Yeah.
almost looks like he shot the guy holding him, but blasted through that guy and hit him too.
Yeah, and some of this dialogue too, the one guy, the guy who's reacting on the left-hand side is the singer, right? I can recognize like his facial hair, and he says,
Yeah.
"But by the bloodstone." Like, what a
Yeah.
horrible, horrible piece of dialogue. Like, it's just, oh my God.
Yeah, no reason to use no need to do an ornate box and do this giant lettering
Yeah.
like that piece of fantastic dialogue. Oh yeah, those are this day and what's happening on the stage. You were up high, you jumped down, you didn't see what was going on.
I'm wondering the same thing
Yeah,
as a reader.
yeah, it feels like he would know a little better what's going on. Where did you jump down to?
Well, maybe this is a page too that's like it's not benefiting from the fact that we're doing all these really kind of close-up shots of the action where we're
Uh-huh.
starting to kind of confuse the characters. It's like, who's getting shot here? Like we see that guy get shot on the left-hand side, the guy with the blue shirt, and then we move to the next page, and then the guy getting shot, we just get a bit of his back and the arm. So I'm not exactly sure exactly who's getting shot down here. It's just a bit of a confusing mess, to be honest. Although I do kind of like the shape of that panel there, where it's got kind of a odd shape, almost like stuff is kind of pouring down. It's kind of interesting.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Oh. Yeah, and then it's also interesting that when he jumps in and saves the singer, there's a disconnect of whether he realizes the guy's a vampire or not yet, because we've already, as the audience, seen him slash a guy, and then when he slashes another guy, they sort of work it out real quick of like, hey, I'm kind of on your side right now. Okay, that works for me. Whatever. Yeah, we're fighting common enemy. It's
Well,
a
he
very
realizes it on this page, right? The dialogue says, "Well done, my armored friend. Did my sister send you? Sister? Didn't know anything about your sister, Mister." That's a unfortunate rhyme there.
oh my God, you're one of them.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. What I am is a friend who remembers his debts. Okay, cool. Cool, 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 cool. I got vampires in my pocket. Awesome.
So I guess that establishes that maybe again there are bad vampires and good vampires.
And the not as bad vampires who
Not
still
as bad, not
not as
good,
bad.
just
Not as bad.
not as bad.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, then you got the backup singer getting attacked and another person finding out they're like, oh shoot, these are vampires. Now, because now she's revealed as a vampire too. Pretty cool spread because you get the 4 panels across the top. Very good details on the monster. I mean, Will's killing it as far as the details, doing a lot of these close-up facial shots. But it works a lot better in this one. Feel like you get the close-up of the monster holding the woman, and then the guy comes in, bam, gets the hit. See the monster's face. He kind of reacts a bit. Then the vampire shows off his claws some more, and then like, oh well, I didn't just bring a fist. I brought a gun. So
Yeah, it's kind of an Indiana Jones reference or something, right? When he's facing off against the swordsman and he just pulls out
yeah,
the gun,
yeah,
right?
maybe.
Kind of similar, right? Because the vampire's like, check out these sweet ass long claws I'm gonna cut you with, and he's like,
Yeah,
I got a gun. I'm just gonna shoot you, blast you
yeah.
away.
But also, in most of our vampire movies, like shooting a vampire doesn't, maybe they're using such high caliber rounds and it's creating such large holes that the healing factor doesn't take effect quick enough. And so it is like, oh yeah, I'm missing a giant cavity of my chest.
Yeah, because I do feel like up to this point, 3 issues in, and we've established, the vampire enemies and the cult and stuff. The lore of these specific vampires isn't really well defined, and that's why we're like, well, do the guns affect them? Do they kill them or not? You know what I mean? It's
Mhm.
like, you kill a vampire traditionally with a stake through the heart, right? So does a bullet through the heart do kind of the same job? I don't know. I do feel like they could have done a bit more just to establish, the basic lore and rules of the vampires here within the Wetworks universe, right? I just feel like we're you know like a lot of Image stuff, they're relying on our prior knowledge, generally of like Marvel comics, but in this case specifically of vampire lore that's come before, and it's just not really well defined, I guess, in the series.
No. So there's a Robot Chicken sketch that does a similar thing where a guy shoots a werewolf and the werewolf's like, oh, it has to be a silver bullet, but the guy just like it just shoots him so many times. He's like, well, okay, and the werewolf does go down because like, well, it's not just one shot. It just You're just blowing him away,
Yeah,
cutting
yeah,
him
yeah.
down.
If you
But
obliterate his whole body, then
yeah,
the bullets don't need to be silver,
right,
apparently.
because the bullets are still going through and taking pieces out. So
Yeah.
okay, you're healing, but he's shooting so fast that you're not healing in time. Uh, they also they basically do the same thing of now here's somebody from Wetworks. They save somebody on the stage, and oh shoot, you're a vampire. Oh, it's cool, human. We're not a threat. We're gonna, we're simpatico. We're on the same team. So they're keeping that repetition of the Wetworks people becoming, I don't know, not friends, but becoming familiar with these vampires and like, oh no, there's this thing out there. Well, I guess we're okay with it.
Well, the enemy of my enemy is my frenemy, I guess, in this case. Not necessarily my friend, but yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, frenemy. Yeah. Yeah, we got the good white space again, and that
A lot of
beach ball.
panels.
Yeah, the beach ball with the toxin in it, the airborne toxin, still hasn't been released. You would, I would think the move might be if you're losing this bad, you just go, well, I guess we're not getting out of here. Boom.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, set it off. But I guess they didn't get to that point. What the heck's going on in panel 2, 3, and 4? That color.
No idea. And the first dialogue bubble is hilarious. It goes, "Hey, what's going on here?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I have no idea.
Yeah, watch it get back. Where'd it
Where'd it
go?
go?
Oh,
Tell me you got that on tape." Like, yeah, just I don't know exactly
oh, is it the body of the
vampire just kind of blinking out of
oh, the
existence?
camera guy and the reporter were reporting on the body that's on the ground, and as they're reporting on it, it just vanishes.
Dissipates. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and it didn't quite go off as a flock of bats because he's dead, but
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, the green smoke makes it look more magical rather than just dissolving into a mist or something, and like the remains floating away, or like it, or like if you've seen when like they die and they turn into ashes and blow away.
or dust. Yeah, yeah, like
Yeah,
in the Avengers movies.
yeah,
This almost looks kind of like when Spawn teleports to me, like
yeah,
a little bit kind of like that. Looks more
right,
like teleportation than dissipation, I guess.
yeah, 100%. So that's confusing. That was very confusing. And then they're still filming. They're filming one vampire leaping away. They're still trying to get the story.
A lot
It's
of
too bad.
these Image comics involve the media in this way, right? Like I'm reviewing Tribe recently, and there's the same kind of media characters on the scene. I'm sure I can't think of any right now, but I feel like there's a sequence in Cyberforce that's like that too. Like it's, you
Mhm.
know,
Yeah,
I feel like those are like little remnants of like Dark Knight Returns is kind of the first
yeah,
mainstream book to really have kind of media involvement, and even that is very much inspired by Howard Chaykin when he was doing
mhm,
American Flag. Right, he was the first to kind of establish that. So
yeah,
definitely feels like they're taking bits and pieces from that stuff.
yeah. I would hope this is the same Asian reporter that we've seen in the other comics.
That is consistent. Yeah, it's the
Yeah,
same lady. Although her haircut's quite different here, so I don't know.
yeah. So it's probably not. Then we get the thing that Dane had in his dream already, where the armor moves away and vampires can get through it. So yeah, he's kind of getting cut up and was about to be overtaken before. Oh, now Dane showed up, and I do like that sequence of like you see the two like and then the cannon come in, a little bit of space created, and then the guy look away as the shot goes off. They're like, oh, it's so terrible.
Yeah,
That's
and
a
he
fun.
really gets in there and shoves it in his mouth too, which is kind of a nice touch.
Yeah,
Very,
the
very
panel
badass.
after is I don't like it as much though. I mean, I get we're seeing the body falling away and he's standing up, but I don't know. There's something I almost do you think maybe another parallel shot of like we just like pan out to like the full body, even if it was in silhouette or something, and you saw the body, other body falling back and the explosion.
Yeah, I feel like the crop's a little too tight. I feel like we should see a little bit more of the body of the vampire kind of falling back.
Yeah,
Feels a little cramped.
yeah. Like I have to take time to interpret the scene rather than just seeing it like, oh wait, here's what's going on. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a bit more of that in this issue where, you know, as clear as the storytelling generally was with Wilson the first two issues, this issue, I have to kind of scour the image a little bit more to kind of break things apart and figure out what's going on.
Yeah.
Very busy kind of panels.
There, yeah, true. But we are getting a lot of panels, so that's good. We get another 2-page spread. So we're getting back to that guy that's the guy who wears the mask to protect his face, and he's got his batons. He's starting out with batons. Didn't start out with a gun and then go through the batons.
Yeah, it's odd that you know, again, you would choose close quarter combat with sticks with vampires rather than keep your distance and just keep using your super high tech, you know, high yield guns.
Right, because he didn't know the batons were going to do what they.
No.
Yeah. So he just had regular batons, which, hey, maybe against vampire, pretty good weapon, but immediately his mask gets cut off. What it doesn't do is have that claw go through the armor, the wetwork armor, the golden symbiote.
It would have been a nice touch because, as we've seen, you know, the vampires can get past that defense of the symbiote. So, yeah, a little bit of blood or cut, and the fact that, you know, he says, not my face, because that's his whole thing. He's a narcissist, right? So to actually have him be injured in the face would make that moment even more kind of impactful, right?
Yep, and then he could complain about it, and it'd be this lingering thing of this guy who'd always been very vain about his appearance and having to like live with them. He's got this big scar on his face.
Don't look at me! Don't look at me! I'm horrible.
Yeah, it would be a bit of a like he's brooding a bunch and is all upset, and so they're like, dude, there's bigger stuff going on, you know.
Yeah.
You're still probably going to be able to pull chicks, you know. It's going to be all right.
That was just a little sidebar here. That was Jack Kirby's original intent with Doctor Doom, right? So Doctor Doom later, when they finally revealed his face under the armor, I think it's John Byrne, I'm not sure, but it was revealed that he put the Doctor Doom mask on his face too fast after it had been like molded with the heat and stuff. And you're like, Doctor Doom's supposed to be this maniacal supervillain genius. Kind of stupid not to wait for the hot molten metal mask to cool down before putting it on his face, right? Like that's kind of a dumb move, and that's why he's like, you know, very scarred up and burnt up, kind of a Freddy Krueger Spawn kind of face, I guess. Kirby's original intent was that Doctor Doom just had a really small scar on his cheek, but he was so, you know, obsessed with his own ego and narcissism and stuff that he thought that little scar completely disfigured him. That's why he wore the mask, which to me is way more interesting and a little less stupid. Just putting a hot fucking iron mask on your face a little too early.
Absolutely. A guy who's very vain or person who's very vain and wears coverage because of this accident that happened makes a lot more sense also of this person being so powerful, and then find out that within themselves they still have their own internal demons, weaknesses, that they live with.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where you from the outside go, you have all that going for you and that still affects you.
Yeah, you know, I'm sure we've all had friends at some point who have a scar on their face, right? And I mean, you know, unless it's a horribly disfiguring scar, most times it's a little cut or maybe through the eyebrow. It's not like I'm like, oh my God, you're horrendous. You know, like it's definitely doesn't have that kind of effect.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I got a streak across my nose now, and I'm like, oh, it's fine. I wasn't nearly the
right. Yeah, exactly. I have a friend who got in an accident a few years back on a scooter where, you know, this woman was going down a one-way street the opposite direction, and you know, he crashed into her car. And he got smashed pretty badly on the nose, and the forehead kind of opened up and stuff. And he's got, you know, you can still see the scar and stuff, but it's not like it disfigured him horribly. Like he's, you know, still looks, you wouldn't even notice it right away. You just kind of have to, you know.
Yeah.
Anyways, back to this guy. Grail is his name.
Yeah. And his symbiote armor is now making a connection to his batons and energizing them. So he's bashing the vampire with now these energy batons. And so he's the first one to start getting modifications, which happens to the Wetwork team as the series goes on, but he's the first one for it to manifest in.
Yeah, and I think it's a good idea that all of a sudden that this power is manifesting. The color change to the
Yeah,
blue kind of hue is
yeah,
nice. Helps to differentiate them once again more so from the other Wetworks guys. And I don't know how far this went within the series as it moved ahead, but if other Wetworks characters are developing these kinds of abilities, that's a good opportunity to change the color scheme. Like this guy Grail. When he uses these extra abilities, it kind of goes into a blue hue. Maybe
yeah.
when Dane does it, it goes into a red hue, green, like use all these different colors to once again really help differentiate the Wetworks characters because right now we've talked about it, they're all kind of very generic and similar.
There's a few that stand out, but most of them, yeah, blend together horribly. Oh, right. So a couple of the guys, and I'm pretty sure these are the ones going down, Crossbones and Flat Top, I think. And they are guarding the ball because like maybe this is the point where the vampires just went, well, we're just gonna set the thing off and just do it. We're not gonna be able to get out of here. So they're defending it. Both of them are shooting from one side, which I think is weird. I think it would make more sense if one was on, on one side and the other one was around on the other side and they're shooting
Yeah,
out like,
trying to
you know,
cover as much ground as possible instead of
yeah, like
just
maybe they're even rotating around it, like and talking to each other rather than they're just guarding the one side. Somebody coming from behind, they would never even see them. Um, but yeah, they're just blasting away at these vampires, but they get overtaken. And yep, as per usual, they're telling Mother One, "Hey, we need help." And every time she's like, "Yeah, we don't got anybody." What do you mean you don't got anybody? You had 9 people there. What else are they doing? Like this is the thing. Everything else going on is like secondary to stopping them from getting to this. So all the resources really should be applied to this, and very little should be diverted to the folks on the stage, any of the extras. This is the thing that has to happen. So it doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah, and I mean, one of these guys, the vampire grabs him, the symbiote starts to kind of pour
Yeah.
off of him,
Yep.
and his actual death happens off panel. Not that I'm super into seeing people die in
Well,
comics or anything. Well,
yeah.
I mean, you see the blood and the reaction, but I mean, I kind
Oh,
of, I think
yeah.
it's a pivotal moment where with the art, you kind of, you want to do it more. I'm trying to think of a good example, like when, Bullseye stabs Elektra in the Frank
Yeah.
Miller one.
Yeah. Yeah.
That moment is like an
Mhm.
arresting, kind of important moment in the story. And here, it almost feels a little bit like an afterthought, like it's happening in a very small panel, almost all off panel, and you could almost be excused for not realizing exactly what happened in this sequence here. It's a little bit confusing to me.
Yeah, I hear you. And that one panel that they have above, which is also a weird tangent of the vampire looking over his little glasses thing, which is directly above Mother One looking, that panel could have been used for showing the guy on the ground
Yeah,
out.
just show me the result of this, and and
Mhm.
and give me a good shot of him where I go, oh, I think he's dead, right? Where here,
Yeah.
I don't know for sure.
Also would have helped on the arm if in all the other slots they still had like the heart rate beep thing going up and down so that straight lines stood out. Also
Yeah,
a red color so that it stands out becomes very obvious because it really the way it's drawn, the beep doesn't really connect to this to really tell us that like, oh, that's a flat line. Like I have to come
again,
around.
it's like the visual storytelling isn't telling us quite enough, and the dialogue or the text is having to come in to
Mhm.
compensate for that, which is, we've talked about that a lot, where it's like you got to get the information through in the visual storytelling, and the text is there to support it, not compensate for it, and for its lack of storytelling. And I get a little bit of that here. And you're absolutely right. A quick fix for that would have just been, the heart
Mhm.
line with the bips on all the other little spaces there. And that would create a clear visual distinction between those who still have a heartbeat and those who don't.
Yeah. And also put those beeps directly over the two that now
Yeah,
are flatlined because
exactly.
they're off to the side rather than here's the two and and the beeps are off to one side. Put them right over both of
there,
them,
there should be a beep above both of them. Yeah, yeah, exactly.
each one. But I do love the actual visual of her arm, and I do like again that they went monochromatic and went with just blue and blue to purple and white, so that she stands out
Yeah, yeah,
completely
yeah.
different than the panels above that are mostly utilizing reds. It's a good
Really
effect.
separates her from the rest of the sequence on the page. Yeah, really, really works well there.
Yeah, and Willis continuing with his odd negative space where it's more here and less there. It's nice touch. It works well on this one.
Yeah, he's consistent within throughout the series, so it works well. And we'll see more examples of it on that next page there you just flashed.
Yeah,
There we
yeah.
go.
Then you get into some much more standard structured paneling, but using a very different negative space for each one of them. We get one of those backgrounds where it's just a blue, like panel 2 that's in the open space. There's just a blue square as a background.
Yeah.
Just to sort of place them to something.
And these two pages, once again, to me, is an example of instances in WetWorks where there's just way too much dialogue and way too much text to read. And again, I feel like a lot of that is to compensate for some of the visual storytelling lacking a little bit in telling the story, and the dialogue and the text having to compensate for that. So it's, anytime I'm reading a book and I turn to pages like this, I always kind of sigh, like, oh man, it's kind of a slog to have to read through.
Uh-huh. Yeah. That this reveal here, the action with Mother 1 is kind of neat of the vampires are all running in, and then the effect could be done better. The subtlety of the blue lasers coming off, it's lost a little bit. Again, you have to kind of put the pieces together versus if they just used a different color and you just clearly saw it shooting out from her and taking the guys out. But it is a cool sequence showing off her power, though it also makes it seem like, well, why didn't she just go down there and walk through the massive vampires and then just be getting
Take them all out at once. Yeah.
yeah, right. Well, what was the reason to do it this way? Why weren't you guarding the ball? Unless you were trying to slim the herd of the Wetworks team. Like, why were you holding back?
Are you still double crossing? Like, yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah. Triple, quadruple crossing, whatever at this point.
Yeah.
But yeah, I totally agree that these kind of little laser beams that are coming out of her body to attack these vampires, man, why make it in the same hue as the background? It just confuses things. If they were like yellow or red or something like that, they would stand out much more and it would be a lot clearer.
Yeah, and her shoulder lighting up in the second panel of her sequence, if it was just one and just sort of beams of light coming off of this one spot where it's energizing up, would be a lot more effective. And then it could just blast the one guy. And then in the next panel, which panel 4 of her sequence, then the lasers are going off in all these different directions. Better build up.
Yeah, totally agree.
Then our sniper character, whose name what is it? They really don't refer to each other enough, but the sniper character is observing this, so she's seen like, oh, Mother One's got even more going on about her. But a vampire gets the drop on her while she's not paying attention, which is why snipers usually work in teams.
Yes.
One person does the shooting and the other person's
Watching out. Yeah.
Yeah. They're helping with details, but also keeping an eye on more of what's going on. But they failed to do that in this. So
yeah, these are also two pages that I feel like the coloring is pretty good overall in the series, but on these 2 pages, the coloring is not helping the storytelling at all. It's very kind of dark and muddled all around. I feel like it's just a lot of the shots are just hard to read. And again, I don't think it's because of the actual pen and ink art. I really think it comes down to the colors.
Yeah, I totally agree with you because her and her gun all blend into the black of the background for the first 2 panels. And then it goes from that to this wide open space, which kind of takes away the effect of her being up in, like, is she hidden up in the shadows or not?
Yeah, because those first 2 panels, to me, doesn't give me the impression that she's hanging.
No.
The girders there.
It doesn't like she's hidden in a tunnel and shooting from out of a like an air duct or something.
Yeah, and that last panel with the vampire kind of grabbing her, her face sticks out because of the colors, but everything else tends to blend together. Like even her arm and then the vampire's hand and stuff. Like, I really got to pay attention as to which part is connected to which character, right? Because just everything else is in this kind of similar blue hue that kind of just mixes together.
Yeah, if the second panel of that sequence, the first panel in the open space where the vampire comes down at her, if the second panel was still a wider shot, so we were seeing the full bodies, but seeing him start to grapple her, then you could go to the third panel of the sequence where it's the up close, because we'd already have seen like him wrap around her in the bigger shot rather than the throat grab. I think it would be more effective.
Yeah.
Oh, and then she's having that same problem, the armor retreating away, making her vulnerable. So it's a kind of a weird enhancement. Like you're stronger and able to survive more damage, except against a vampire where the armor just retreats. But then she gets fortunate that the other vampire from the concert goer side of the vampires of the musicians that are working for Draken, or not working for Draken, excuse me, the Blood Queen's brother, who is a singer, drops in, helps out. And you get a third. Now it's the third time of like hey, I'm a vampire, but it's cool.
Yeah.
Hey, human.
We're kind of on your side. I'm a friend,
Yeah, we're the not so bad vampires. You'll probably not die via our hand. Yeah, helps her out and then takes off running across the stanchions in a very dark panel. Which
I wonder too, like with the kind of aesthetic that he's establishing for these vampire characters and later on the werewolves and stuff, and really using a lot of the blue hue for these characters. I wonder if the movie Underworld at some point maybe saw this book or took some inspiration, because I feel like the vampire werewolf aesthetic in that movie and in this comic are quite similar. Watching Underworld and the color scheme and stuff, there is, I feel like, a visual connection to what's going on with these type of characters in the Wetworks.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, this comic, I don't know if they did it on purpose, but they got a lot of inspiration from Anne Rice's Interview with a Vampire. Like there was that original movie, but the second book is all about Lestat going on tour as a rocker in the 80s. And he's doing this whole goth band thing, and he's got a big following. It's like, oh, it's the same thing in this.
Which is kind of cool. It kind of makes sense. I like that as an idea for a vampire stories is actually pretty cool.
Oh, sure. A vampire that, like, rock stars live a nighttime lifestyle anyway. They're on their tour bus during the day, avoiding regular life. And then
absolutely
start coming alive in the evening and then do their concert and then party all night and then go to sleep and get back on the bus. It makes total sense.
Like the vampire mythos in a modern setting, that makes like complete sense.
Yeah, you just got to have coffins on the tour bus.
Well, it's that cult of personality that I imagine, Vlad the Dracula, the Impaler back in the day, he had it because he was like the king, I guess, or the leader of the country of Transylvania or Romania or wherever he's from, right? So back then, those were the celebrities, right? Today, he'd be a rock star. Or maybe a rap star.
The fifth panel of that first page, I wish it was we were getting a little more detail as far as the sniper character, and I wish the vampire running off was a little closer, like he wasn't all the way down the stanchion, but like midway, so they could both be better detailed. Because again, I feel like there's a little bit of putting together what's going on rather than it being obvious. Or if there wasn't so much of the close-up panels, like those headshots could have been two smaller panels because you just need the headshot, not so much the claw and hand. And then maybe there's a panel of him starting to run away.
It does feel, I agree with like this issue suffers from sometimes things being cropped too close and sometimes the camera pulling away too far, right? That's an example of that here.
Yeah, right. We're getting a lot of focus on the transformation detail and very little focus on the retreat. We do get back to that ball of the toxin gas, which is still safe, and Dane has gotten to it, but his members are down, and he gets attacked by, it's not Draken, it's Draken's number one, I think.
Again, it's, we're assuming, right? That's the thing that's unfortunate about most of this issue. It's like, everything, you know, the vampires look similar. They're very generic. The Wetworks guys look similar to each other and they're very generic. So like, you know,
Yeah.
as much as even if I read the dialogue in the text, I'm still slightly confused as to who's who. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And this vampire uses a mental power that
Yeah.
none of the rest of them have used. So yeah, Dane's getting hit by a mental power that's causing the armor to go away. And it is kind of cool how it's going away, the effect of how they do it. And then it comes back and he's like, no, I got a little something extra because I'm X Team 7.
And I also have some sort of mental telepathic powers, right? That we saw in the last issue, I think.
Yeah, they had that. It was kind of a cool connection amongst the Wildstorm books of like everybody on the team had a team. Every team had somebody from the Team 7 team that used to be this military team that all ended up getting psychic powers. So like Grifter was on there, so he had some kind of power that had slowly faded, but was helping, I think, keep him youthful and keep him a little more than human. Dane was on the team. Was it Backlash? Who was the guy with the whips?
Yeah.
Okay, from Stormwatch, they had a guy on the team. Who were we missing? Did Cyberforce have somebody on the team? I know there was another. Oh, Deathblow. Guy who was Deathblow was on the team. So
and Lynch as well was kind of I don't remember if he was the commander of the team or he was on the team or something. But yeah, you're right. Every book, it's like eventually they did publish a Team 7 book, but early homage books were all connected through this team that we'd never really encountered. It's, you know, it was kind of, you know, the plot of that was established just bit by bit in each of the books and with each of those characters connected to the book. Connected to Team 7. The shot of Dane here, I think, is just slightly ridiculous to me. Like the pose that he's got, I almost feel like I get a Saturday Night Fever kind of vibe from it. Feels like he's dancing. I don't know if I'm the only one who has that impression there, but like he's almost got the John Travolta pose here.
Yeah, it's not artfully, it's not Willis's best drawing, but also it does not convey the actual thing that's happening. It would be so much better if he was hunched over holding his head. So we just saw him like, is this that?
Or the old, you know, when the hands are like this, like just you know, something's going on. Like here, it's just like either he's surrendering or he's dancing. It's one or the other. It's
right. It is a weird pose.
A weird choice.
To do something like I'm not getting a he's in trouble pose versus, you know, holding his head or something or
some anguish, looking more anguished, I guess. Yeah. I always when I look at this shot, I hear Bee Gees music in my head for some reason. It's just
yeah. And I would almost think, like, again, because we can't tell who's who with the vampires, like to me, it could just as easily be the singer standing behind him, because that's who I thought it was at first look. I thought the singer was standing behind him, maybe helping to get rid of this toxin ball, and is hitting him with the magic of music. You know, like he's like his vampire powers that he's sung his words and that's hitting him. It's very confusing that they don't have good distinct looks for the vampires.
Well, I was going to say, that's one of the problems is this character has the exact same hairstyle as the singer. And that's where, like I said, a lot of the characters tend to just look the same and mix into each other. So you're very confused as to who's who. Again, I feel like the two characters that, I'll say three, that really stand out to me are Dane, Grail, who's got the mask, and Mother One. Other than that,
and the sniper girl, because it's the only girl on the team other than Mother One, doesn't have cybernetic arms, uses a sniper rifle. So her, it's the other crop of dudes of different sizes with different types of headbands, goggle combo. The rest of them all just blend together, which is definitely why two of them had to go.
It's one of the big problems of the series is being able to make out who's who, basically.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, as much as we shit on Cyberforce and the storyline, at least visually, the characters are easy to recognize. We're not, confounding them.
Yeah, we absolutely know who's who. Well, not the leader, but the most popular guy with his triple arms on the left side. The girl with the face mask and not the scythe knife, but something just like it. and
Yeah.
a big, huge dude who's not Colossus, but just runs around bashing stuff, and a claw guy. And then the only one less distinct is the leader, but everyone else stands out. So the guy who flies and shoots blast, we're not
By
gonna,
default, yeah.
yeah, we're not going to confuse them for the other people. These folks do blend in way too much together. They have the problem the Ninja Turtles have, but it's compounded because they started with 9 of them. Like imagine 9 Ninja Turtles.
All with red bandanas. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
all with red bandanas, but maybe one of them cants his bandana slightly to look a little different, and one of them pulls it down and looks through eye slots. And they do have different weapons, but some of them have very similar weapons. Like one of them has 2 long swords, but one of them, well, one has 2 katanas, the other one has a katana, but then like the shorter sword. And so, start blending together a lot more. It'd be so confusing. 9 Ninja Turtles, and that's kind of what we're running into here.
Yeah, and I mean they came up Ninja Turtles eventually when they came up with the toys and the cartoon series came up with a really simple solution of just like let's give them different colored bandanas. And I'm sure even the creators of the Turtles were like, yeah, that makes sense. Let's, we're not fighting that.
They also put the first letter of their name on their belt buckle.
Yes, yeah. That makes it even more obvious. But I think the colors would have been enough, honestly.
The colors, totally does it. I mean, they have different weapons, and then they have different colored bandanas in case they're not holding the weapon. And yeah, it did work. But yeah, then we get the shot of Dane turning back of like, oh no, you don't got me, I got you, and his mental power that he's had blasting back. And I'm guessing that mental power has been either reawoken or enhanced by having this armor, which symbiote. So he then blasts down this vampire with his power and totally fries its brain. Which leads us to that really, really cool page of like huge bit of white space, the vampire on the ground, the shadows, which were done, of course, by the colorist, and the effects, the blood, which looks like 2 colors, so it's not too different. Great. It's great. It's not just a single color, but it's great that they don't try to do too many variations on it. And then some of the team kind of coming together at the end of Dane, Mother One, and maybe the guy who used to wear the face mask, but he doesn't have batons. I don't know which guy this is. And then we get the one other panel, which, again, it's that same thing. It's not as bad as we've seen before, where it's that same angle. It's a little bit of variation, but it's not a huge variation.
Yeah, and we're getting a lot more of that, just lots and lots of text explaining stuff that's not being explained again in the visual storytelling. I got the book here. So, nasty bit of work there, Colonel. That's fine as far as dialogue comes. It would appear that he was the ringleader. So, other than her saying that, we would never know that, right? There's no real visual emphasis throughout this whole story that he is leading them, right? Or at least that he's the same character that we assumed was leading them at the beginning of the story, because visually they don't resemble each other enough.
Wasn't he also the guy who got shot? Because based on that, that should be the guy who got shot through the chest several times.
Yeah. But I don't know, because they all have the same like mullet hairstyle. Is this a thing that's popular amongst the vampire community? Like this one haircut?
Yeah, they're fluffy mullet.
The remaining vampires had fled from the auditorium. Really? Well, it would have been nice to have an image of them doing that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. He goes down, and we get several shots of you get the close-up of a couple of vampires looking over their shoulder as they're fleeing, and then you could do the silhouettes of a mass of them fleeing. Yeah, show it.
And this whole page is that. Every bit of text from Mother One that I read. The next one. As for the viral agent, Jester and Claymore have the package safely in custody.
Oh,
great.
We didn't do that.
I'll take your word for it, because I haven't seen it.
Yeah, really could have easily shown them pushing that ball into a crate or something, that they're taking it out of there. Yeah.
This whole bit of dialogue is exposition that could have been shown visually.
Yeah.
She says, but not without casualties. Crossbones and Flat Top were killed in action. Really? Because we saw them getting attacked and bleeding, but whether or not they're dead, not that clear. Dozer and Pilgrim have been unable to recover their bodies. It's possible that the Warriors may have taken them as trophies. Again, show it. You know what I mean? damn it, why wasn't I told of this before? Well, because this is the first opportunity I've had to tell you, right? Like, you were rather preoccupied at the moment with the Beastmaster. Who's the Beastmaster? I don't know for sure because this is the first time I hear his name.
This guy? Probably this guy?
I'm going to assume so, but we don't really know for sure.
Yeah, she could have said this was the Beastmaster he was leading.
Yeah, but this is all stuff that's like, unfortunately, lots of text we're having to read through to explain things that, should have just been explained visually with very minimal bits of text and dialogue.
Yeah, it probably would have taken 1 2-page spread to show concurrently a group of the vampires running off with the bodies. The two WETWORKS guys grabbing the toxin and loading it, and then a row of panels of the vampires fleeing. I mean, literally a 2-page spread, like this is going on, this is going on, this is going on, and we'd see it all.
And then with those vampires fleeing, maybe you see them running off with the bodies of the 2 dead WETWORKS guys as well,
Yeah.
And I definitely feel like her hinting that they're taking their bodies as trophies is very Predator kind of inspired.
Right.
Another one of those.
Right. And then, but they do give a nice little cap in some ways of like, okay, we won this one, but this is, Dane is really on it of like, we can't let this pass. Like, those guys deserve better than that. If they wanted a war, they're going to get it. It's like, I mean, the war's already on, ain't it, dude? Like, hey, we're in a war, but now we have another thing to concern ourselves with. We got to beat these guys, but we also got to recover the bodies of our friends.
And he says, if this Night Tribe wants a war with us, then they've got one. Have they been called the Night Tribe up to this point?
Probably in that briefing. The big briefing when they were talking about going into.
Oh, okay. I'm just checking because I feel like I don't remember them. Yeah. I remember them being referred to as the Night Tribe in like Wizard articles that I read about the book. But again, one of those, right, for Image. I feel like, I could be wrong, but maybe this is the first reference to it. So I'm like, did he just come up with that name? Like, where does this name come from?
Well, wasn't that Clive Barker had the movie Night Tribe?
Nightbreed. Great movie.
Nightbreed. Oh, so different. Right. Totally. Totally.
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure that movie, it does predate this book. So
yeah. What was Mark Silvestri's The Mutant Liberation
Army instead of
Force
Front?
Army? Yeah, Mutant Liberation. Yeah. Oh, whoops. We got a little. Guess this one's. Did we get it there? But yeah, this final sequence here, as they're again they're kind of closing it out, which they do this a little better than Cyberforce, a little better, not way better.
Yeah.
But a little better. We just got too much exposition, but sort of telling us everything that was happening there on the scene. Then it cuts to the reporters who were following the action, and then they're looking over their tapes and they don't see the vampires in it. Like, what the heck? And they even see like look, you can see the blood, but where's the body? And well, we'll have our computer techs look it over, and then the not so bad vampires pop in and like, yeah, we're taking your tapes. Well, I'm not gonna let it happen. You're gonna let it happen if you want to live. But also there's a national security thing, which sort of true. They kind of give them a plausible like, they don't say we're vampires. They say national security, and like, oh, you got us again.
Government spooks, basically, right?
Yeah, they gave him a little bit of that rather than sprout fangs and trying to intimidate him.
This page also brings to me a little bit of like 90s nostalgia, because it is kind of hilarious now in 2026 that they're all this information is stored on VHS tapes. I love that.
Oh, sure. Right. Yeah, we're going to need those thumb drives. Oh, we already uploaded it to the cloud.
It's funny, just a little side. My girlfriend watches this kind of Big Brother TV show. It's like the Quebec French-Canadian equivalent of Big Brother. And yesterday she was watching it, and I'm kind of working on some stuff and kind of half listening, working on some comic book stuff. And one of the characters, there was a challenge, and he found a tape, and then he had to put it in a tape recorder. You know those rectangular tape recorders we had as kids. And the guy who's doing it was born in 2004, I think. So he's like 22 years old. Could not get the tape into the tape player. I thought it was hilarious. And he's like, "What is this thing from like 70 years ago?" He's flipping out. He's like, "This thing's old as time." And remember, like when the top would pop up, you would actually slide the cassette into the top and then push it down.
Yeah.
He couldn't figure it out. He's putting the tape in the bottom part, trying to close it. He's like, he never figured it out. It's really funny.
Yeah. That was confusing technology. Yeah. There were the simpler ones where it just slid in through a slot and the door.
Yes. But I just thought it was hilarious because I take for granted that, like, well, I know how a tape recorder works, even though we don't use them anymore. And I was like, yeah, I guess a guy born in 2002 has never really had to contend with tapes at all, I would think, right? So it's kind of funny to me.
And then you get, so on the final page, you get Drake and be like, oh, I'm coming after you guys, and you, whoa,
Fist in the air,
And he even yells at it's funny that he yells at the monitor, like, I'm coming for you. Do you hear me? Like, no, they don't hear you.
No, they don't.
In your private security room. How would
they get an audio feed to your underground bunker, like, or wherever he is? Yeah.
Yeah. If he had said something like, "You will rue the day, you will rue the day," or you will find out too late what you started, or something, it would make a little more. But they do kind of set it up to like the "Do you hear me?" and the Blood Queen. We're like, yeah, we do, because we've bugged your whole operation and we're got eyes on. So yeah.
I guess that's what they're going for by having that bit of dialogue. It's like, well, the WETWORKS guys don't, but the Blood Queen does, right? Kind of like ha ha ha, but still kind of a shitty bit of dialogue there, honestly. Again, another instance where you have an editor say, yeah, this is just take that out, or change it to something else, or like, I'll get my revenge, or something maybe a little more classic, but that doesn't, the fact, again, it's just hilarious when you stop and think about it, that he's looking at these guys on screen and yelling at them, "Do you hear me?" Again, no, they don't.
Yeah. I wish I could do the Cobra Commander voice, just be like, "I'll get you." That scratchy, weird voice he had. The Blood Queen, still hanging around in a robe or lingerie, showing off her endowedness.
Her nipples are pretty obvious there.
Yeah, she's the most stacked of the vampires, which is why she's in charge, I guess. But yeah, she gives another little recap of she's telling her number one, which I think was the person who shot that one symbiote cell to get the whole thing started. But telling her like, oh, wasn't Dane impressive? I've been wanting to recruit this guy for a while, and his team's in place to help us out with our battle against Draken. Like, it's a pretty decent, like, as we talked about with the Image founders, how many of them actually accomplished having a mini series and then going into a long running series, versus how many of them you just had a long running series. WETWORKS is one of the few that like had a 4-issue arc. Spawn was close. That wasn't that was a setup. They did do a good setup miniseries. Obviously, Youngblood was all over the place and in no way accomplished the mission. Cyberforce does do a miniseries, just not great. We talked about Shadowhawk. It's like, kind of. It's a setup, but does it really reach a conclusion of a beginning, middle, end? Just feels more like the day in the life. Savage Dragon, no way, shape, or form is that a miniseries. It's just a series started and it's moving forward. Issue 1 is just issue 4. But this one, again, pretty good miniseries setup of like getting the pieces on the board, giving us some information about what's going on, and then like, okay, it's launched. It's on.
Yeah. I mean, where we kind of ranked the stories of all the Image founders, I think Cyberforce was at the very bottom, and then Youngblood just before it.
Did you think so? I'm after reviewing these, I don't think I can I think I've got to put Youngblood at the absolute bottom, no question, because it's so all over the
Yeah, you're
place.
probably right. Yeah, story wise. Yeah.
Yeah, it sort of starts off with something, and then it just like, well, I decide to do this now, and I guess I'm going to have to end cap that.
Yeah.
First, Cyberforce at least started out with something, and it did reach a conclusion, but the details in between were not well told. Nor was the aftermath well resolved, but still a little better than Youngblood.
Yeah, I guess I would agree with that. Yeah, for sure. Youngblood's probably actually the worst because it's just Rob's jumping every issue
Yeah.
to this new thing that he's into, and there's no consistent storyline really throughout. So I guess Wetworks,
It's
is it
kind
better
of,
than Cyberforce? I'd put it probably about at the same level as Cyberforce. I still think Wildcats, not by much, but is still a better storyline overall, more like logical all the way throughout, I guess is how I put it. Like it makes sense. I'm really not as confused reading Wildcats as I am reading Wetworks. That's for sure.
Yeah. But yeah, at least Wetworks did a good job of limiting the scope of the opening story. It's not the world, it's a first strike, and they learned about their opponent, got into this situation, like their relationship with their organization changes, and they have to go with an agent of it, and they learn about their new opponent, and they defeat them in a battle. So they've saved the day for now, and that's a good miniseries. Like you've shown us the players, put the pieces in place, but you didn't have a world-ending battle, which that would be one of the few things Wildcats could have. Well, we've talked a lot about Wildcats where they could have limited the scope a little bit, and that could have helped. But still, they were pretty effective with what they did.
Overall, like we said, not the best written book, but definitely solid as a just beginning, middle, end storyline. Let me ask you this: the last panel on this page at the bottom right, what does that say for you?
These are exciting times indeed, my dear cousin.
Oh, and then at the bottom right there of the panel, what is that?
Thin.
Do you know what that is?
Right, we're finished, but also it's weird to use Finn because they had Finn in Savage Dragon, because he's got a Finn and they're Finn with the series.
So I'll help you out.
Oh no, is this going to be a foreign language thing?
It's a French language thing.
Something different. Okay.
So Fin is actually fin. This is how you pronounce it in French, and it means end. That's basically all it is right there.
Oh.
Yeah. But I like, as a French speaker, I see that and I'm like, why do that? Because the majority of people reading this are going to be Anglophones, right? So I'm like, they're not going to understand that means end. You know what I mean? So I was just, I was wondering if someone who doesn't speak French, what they think that is. I'm just curious, right? The story ends with the word fin, right? It's just weird.
Well, for us English speakers, I think that all it looks like is they've shortened the word finished instead of
okay.
Instead of using in, like
it still leads you to think end, right?
Yeah, we're done for now. Yeah, okay. Instead of all the finish, they just went with thin, but it happens to mean in French
end. Yeah.
End. Okay.
Yeah, just end. La fin is the end.
That's probably just a fortunate coincidence or an odd coincidence if you're a French speaker going, this whole book's in English. Why did they use?
Yeah, like I just remember seeing that and I'm like, okay, as a French speaker, I know what that means, but I feel like most Anglophones would be kind of confused as to what's going on there. And here's the thing too, I'm wondering if I'd have to go back and I'm kind of guessing, but Wills is from the Philippines, right? Were the Philippines ever like a French colony? Because I feel like this bit at the end, and remember at the beginning I said there was the guy whose name is Raymond Lagauche, which means the left.
Oh yeah. So
there's all these little bits of French here and there where I'm just wondering if maybe, it would make sense that if the Philippines were a French colony at some point, there'd still be remnants of it within Filipino culture. I went to Vietnam, and they were obviously a French colony for a long time. So there's still little remnants of the French language here and there that you can kind of see in their culture. So just a little bit curious about that.
Yeah. Okay. Just a quick research, and colonized by Spain, later by the United States, but France had interest Interest not being they were interested, but interest in involvement in.
Yeah.
Southeast Asia, including Vietnam, Cambodia, and Laos.
Again, it's Southeast Asia. There was a French presence there for a while, even if they didn't colonize every country.
A colonial rule.
Ah, okay, that makes sense.
Despite a failed attempt to claim that, oh boy, Basilan. No, I don't know the pronunciation of this one. Basilan. 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 Okay.
Yeah, close enough.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, because I'm always interested in that kind of stuff. I remember when I watched Apocalypse Now for the first time. There's a moment where he meets these like French colonists that are still living there in Vietnam, like out in the jungle. It was always kind of a little bit surreal and weird when you watch that movie. I assume you've seen Apocalypse Now.
Yeah, a long time ago.
Great movie, obviously.
Man, yeah, I do really like this page. Would have been great to make that panel smaller and get it off of.
Yeah, not have it overlap the crux of that part of the image. Agreed.
Yeah. Also, it has in some attempts to do it, having Dane standing over the guy. I didn't even think about the fact that he's standing over his legs to bring him in closer, which I don't think I mean, it wasn't like he was standing over him when they were fighting. So it's a little weird that he like mentally blasted him and then walked to stand over him.
Yeah, I guess he's trying to, I don't know, some symbolic move to overpower him, or I guess it's a visual cue to say like he's been conquered.
I think it's purely being done just to fit it into the page.
Makes sense because they're pretty up close there to the bleed and the cut line.
Yeah,
that's cutting it pretty close, actually.
Yeah. So if they didn't have that last panel there, they wouldn't have to do that. They could just go ahead and have that body be a little further down. Anyway, no need to recap the whole book. But yeah, I mean, this one, if it came out on the time of the other founders, I mean, I think it ranks pretty well against the other guys. I still would think, even though despite its being like a day in the life of like Savage Dragon, have a great setup, and then the other issues are just like the next day or whatnot, still going to be my top series because the art's so consistent and it's a good setup and it's a good flowing narrative, and we keep learning a little more. But this one would have ranked pretty high, like in the middle at least. Artfully, it's well told. We get background details like we like. There was a lot of confusion, visual storytelling confusion, and similar. It is similar to Cyber Force. It's a little too complicated on the plot, but maybe not quite as bad. Just with how you got the double cross to the double cross, but not so bad.
I feel with WETWORKS, what causes the confusion is not so much the storyline itself, but again, just the kind of generic aspect of the vampire crew and the cult all looking very similar, and the main protagonist, the WETWORKS guys, looking very similar as well. That's where a lot of confusion, most of the confusion comes from. Out of all the Image books, we've talked about this before, where I feel like, all these guys could have definitely benefited from a more experienced writer, other than maybe I would say Erik Larsen, who I feel pretty much does. He's probably the top writer, I feel like, of all the Image founding fathers. The most kind of straightforward storytelling, but easily followable visually and in the writing as well. I don't feel like Erik Larsen is often using dialogue and text to explain things that he's not doing visually. He's definitely doing it visually first and adding just the right amount of text and dialogue. So balance-wise, I think his is the best book. And again, if you're not that talented of a writer, or you're a first-time writer, you haven't written that much, I think it's smart to go with a single character for your series and just focus more on that. Where the guys who did the team books definitely would have benefited the most from a solid, experienced writer, kind of just tying things together a little more succinctly and pointing things out like, hey, you got this here, but you didn't explain that. Almost, I guess, doing the job of writer and editor a little bit. The team books at Image from the founding fathers are what would have been the series that would have benefited the most from an experienced writer helping them out. And WETWORKS is kind of falls in that as well.
Yeah, WETWORKS, Wildcats, Cyberforce, Youngblood. Yeah, all four of those. Yeah, and Shadowhawk. I mean, Jim Valentino did a very good job of visual storytelling. We could always read the comic via what we're looking at, and then go through the dialogue and the inner monologues to get additional details. The only area where his book really lacks is that there's kind of a setup, but it's not a setup that there's really nowhere that it goes. Like especially
it's not a strong setup. Yeah, you can't go too far with the basic premise of Shadowhawk. You're gonna have to get past that at a certain point. Yeah. And it does feel with Shadowhawk, you know, the more the series advances, the less spines he breaks.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That happens right. Yeah. Right away.
You get a lot in the beginning, and then as the series advances and gets a little more interesting, it's like, yeah, this is actually not the most interesting aspect of the character. So it kind of falls by the wayside a little bit, which is probably better for the series.
Yeah. Yeah. That would have been a good series to have a much more limited series so that the character could stay brutal like that, but then end up, you know, having to meet a bad end because they're drawing so much negative tension.
It would be hilarious if he, like, throughout the series just always insisted on breaking spines. You know what I mean? Like he's come in with this lady who was about to be raped or whatever, and you know, he kicks everyone's ass and he breaks the main guy's spine. And then the other guys are just lying on the ground, passed out. And he's just going around putting his knee in their back, and the woman's like, "What are you doing?" It's my shtick, you know. I gotta leave the scene, make sure every spine is broken, you know?
Yeah, yeah. You see a guy who's like the last guy, and who's like slow trying to get to his feet and get away, get out of the scene. Yeah.
One guy does get away and eludes Shadowhawk for like 12 years.
Oh.
And then one day Shadowhawk just shows up. Like the guy's, you know, he's changed his life. You know, he's become a nice guy, started a family, he's got 5 kids, working at the post office. Shadowhawk just shows up one day and breaks his spine, you know? It is kind of a ridiculous conceit. But again, I've mentioned this before, I always feel like Valentino and Shadowhawk was doing things a little bit tongue-in-cheek and kind of doing almost like, I'm doing my you know, violent, gritty 90s image version book, and I'm having a bit of fun with it, and it is somewhat of a subconscious parody, a little bit of that kind of gritty book, you know?
Would have been if when he did get that last guy, if he got him at his house, but then laid him on the lawn and put a ladder next to him as if he like, you can let your family think this happened naturally. You know, so like the kids come home and like he has to live with the embarrassment that everyone thinks he just fell off the ladder and got paralyzed. And so it's even like more annoying to him that like I'm paralyzed and everybody thinks it happened via something stupid because I don't want to tell them that this hero came and
this guy showed up and just put his knee in my back and broke my spine
years ago. Yeah. I'm trying to save them that anguish, but I'm living as an embarrassment.
The kids had been using the slip and slide in the yard the day before, so like the next day Shadowhawk leaves them next to the slip and slide. So it's just officially recorded as a slip and slide accident.
Yeah.
All right. We're gone far off now. Anything else about WETWORKS?
Oh, God. Yeah. You know, it's always going to be a shame that it wasn't able to come out when it was supposed to. It was supposed to follow shortly behind Cyberforce. All the setup was there. I mean, there was already the preview in one of the Wildcats issues. It was heavily advertised. It was advertised and
ready to go.
And just family tragedy struck, and Willis went on to do the very honorable thing and look out for family rather than worry about his series. But yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it is unfortunate for him because he does seem like a pretty good guy, you know, who would definitely, you know, was worth earning these millions of dollars that all the other founding fathers were earning with their books. And like you said, you know, with all the buildup of Image in general, the marketing for WETWORKS, the preview, you know, I definitely feel if he had come out, the book had come out when it was supposed to, he probably overall would have benefited the most from you know, the comics bubble at the time, the popularity of the books, the popularity of Image Comics, probably definitely would have sold millions and millions of copies of it at that time.
Yeah, he would have had million sales just like they did. And even if he was doing an issue every other month in the year and a half that he missed, which was the big time, that still would have been, he would have got at least 8 issues out. And if you made at least $1 million an issue, I mean, set for life. And that they missed that. But yeah,
unfortunate. I'm sure he still made fairly good coin, at least on these first few issues of WETWORKS.
Yeah,
but already the writing was on the wall with the comics market, right? So the bubble was bursting. So he definitely, for sure, did not have the numbers that the Image founders had.
No, unfortunately.
All right, that's going to do it for today.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're going to see you out, viewers. Going to thank everyone out there for checking out the videos. Really do appreciate it. If you are subscribed, thank you so much. We do appreciate the support. If you're watching but you're not subscribed, guys, please do so below. It only takes a quick second for you, and it really helps the channel out, helps us grow, helps get us out there to other people who are into comic books, just like we are. Speaking of comic books, Mark and I make our own. You can check out Mark's stuff at Big Cartel. He's got Guano Guy, he's got Darkest Image, and he's got Kayfabe, Death of a Super. I got it right. And again, you can check all those amazing books out at Big Cartel. For myself, my website is KingComics.CA. You can check out my 13-issue epic Big Baby, as well as my 32-page one-shot sci-fi cosmic surrealist adventure STARCRASHER. Once again, you can check all those out at KingComics.CA. Mark, just going to thank you once again for joining me. Always fun talking comics with you. And everyone out there, thanks again for watching the videos, and have yourselves an awesome day.
King Comics presents Big Baby, Volume 1, Issues 1 to 13, 204 pages of story and art. King Comics also presents STARCRASHER one-shot, 32 pages, cosmic sci-fi surrealist adventure. You can find these fine comics at KingComics.CA, at MaximusRex13 on Instagram, or on Facebook, MaxRex or Big Baby. Like!